Welcome back to Pulse Geelong. David Bowie is an undisputed musical genius. It's his evolving image that's being explored in a new photographic exhibition in Geelong, which you can catch at the Charles Gallery until August 29. Here's Alex with more.
I'm here at the latest exhibition to reach Geelong, David Bowie Heroes by Masayoshi Sukita, and he covers 40 years of David Bowie's legendary career. I'm here with Paul Sumner, the CEO of Moss Green Gallery. Thank you for speaking to us, Paul. Now tell us a bit about this exhibition.
Well, this is an exhibition of photographs by Masayoshi Sukita, who was David Bowie's photographer, since the late 60s. It's a group of works that we put together, which we timed to show at the same time as the big David Bowie show at Acme in Melbourne.
How many pieces are in this exhibition?
There's 22 photographs which are in editions, and each one has been selected from really the entire career of Sukita working with Bowie since the late 60s. So it covers everything from his early Ziggy Stardust days right through to the more recent sort of photography in New York, in his new life in New York these days.
Fantastic. And just tell us a little bit about the relationship that David Bowie had with Masayoshi, the photographer.
Yeah, well, they met in the late 60s, and Mick Rock was the legendary photographer, was always doing Bowie's photography until he met Sukita, who doesn't speak any English. He's the most lovely man, and I've met him now several times. And he actually came here. I didn't mention that before, but he came to Melbourne to sign these works. And then he said, I have to go to Geelong. And I said, but the works aren't in Geelong and the gallery isn't open yet. He said, but I still have to go. So he came. He's very wanted to see the space, so he came into the empty gallery here in Geelong, and he loved it. So and he's gone back to Japan now, but I'll call him after the show tonight to tell him how it's all looking, because it looks amazing. But back to what I was saying before, he met Bowie in the late 60s, not speaking any English, and Bowie not speaking any Japanese, but they just hit it off. And Bowie spent quite a bit of time in Japan. In fact, his music and his fashion, if you look at some of these photographs, heavily influenced by Japanese culture. And they've had this friendship for 40, 50 years, and hence there's such a depth of work to call on with Sukita and his relationship with. And in Japan, Sukita himself is famous. That's the other thing. He's a famous photographer, not just because of his relationship with Bowie, but the cityscapes in Japan, and he's famous in his own right. So maybe that's partly why the two of them get on so well, because they're both very well-known people, and they're not sort of sycophantic at all with each other, because they're both on the similar sort of level, if you know what I mean.
And why Geelong? This exhibition is in Geelong, so why did you choose here?
Well, two things. First was meeting your Lord Mayor, Darren Lyons. He was so enthusiastic. He said, look, if you did bring something to Geelong any day, he'd support it as best he could. And sure enough, he's coming tonight to launch the show, which is great. And secondly, Charles Rose Jewellery here and I know the owners who live in Melbourne, and they came to me by coincidence and said, look, we've got this gallery space and we'd really love to do something that complements jewellery and would be of interest with our artists. And I said, well, I've got this amazing show coming with David Bowie. Why don't we put this on at the same time? So here we are.
And it's such an amazing space as well. You've placed all of the photographs in a sequence. Was that difficult to choose certain photographs?
It is actually, when you're not fully aware of the space until you put works in. But the trick to it is you try and pick it. Every work has to stand on its own as an artwork in itself, and then you try and put it together so it holds together as a complete show. And so I'm very pleased and relieved that it does hold together well.
And you're a bit of a David Bowie fan.
Yes, I call myself a David Bowie tragic from way back. He was absolute my number one hero as a boy growing up. He's a fascinating man. I mean, I love his music, but I also fascinated by him as a person, and he was like the first person to really use this thing of inventing and reinvention in terms of creating these characters, almost like a theatrical characters that evolved through his life. So he's a sort of an amazing person on multiple levels, and an actor and all the rest of it. So yes, I am starstruck, and it's very good to have the show here in Geelong. Hopefully it's the first of many shows in Geelong.
I've had a look around at some of these fabulous images, and this exhibition is a must-see. It's on at the Charles Gallery in Geelong on Moorabool Street until August 29th. I'm Alex Hecker for Pulse Geelong.